Hi, I'm Dave Bundy, editor of the Lincoln Journal-Star, and this is our editorial board endorsement interview with Senator Rob Clements, who is running for the legislature in District 2. Before we hear a lot from you, Rob, let's hear a little from Kent. Just to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Kent Wolgamott. I write about arts and entertainment, and I've been on the editorial board for over a decade.
All right. Well, Rob, we appreciate you being with us this morning. And so our first question is kind of a way to introduce, for you to introduce yourself and talk a little bit about why you're running for office. But you've been in the legislature now. You know what it's like. It's not always a picnic, particularly in this political climate. So why do you want to be in the legislature? And then what experiences and personal attributes do you have that will help you as you serve?
Yes, I have been a senator for 6 sessions now. This is my 6th year, and I have been glad to do that. I felt like that I have been able to make a difference, especially working on government spending and some tax reform, probably my highest priority. I'm a common sense conservative and wanted to use my business experience that I had to continue to help the government operate more like a business and less like bureaucracy.
All right. Next question for you. This is it sort of relates to something we already said. At times the state, the country, they feel divided politically. You've got a broad area that you'll represent, and it's broad geographically as well as sort of ideologically. So how do you listen to, how do you represent such a diverse group?
Well, it's true. I'm in Cass County and also part of Lincoln, and it's very rural and part of the county, but suburban edge of the Lincoln City. I've been a businessman, small town, for 40 years, and I've in my business, I've worked with all sorts of people and been able to get along well with them. I believe I'm a good listener. I'm diplomatic, try not to call names, just deal with facts. And I've been president of nonprofit organizations here in town and running meetings with people with different backgrounds. So, and I'm comfortable with treating people fairly, no matter who they are.
All right. And I can say that you're an efficient answerer of questions. So next question for you. Immigration is largely a federal issue, but the legislature has taken up aspects of it. Are there any immigration related reforms, changes that you feel like the state should be addressing?
My area hasn't had much in immigration. I don't have a lot of experience there, but I do believe in enforcing the law. I'd like to help people who want to become citizens, but I don't agree with giving the people who are here legally voting rights. So I think refugees, Lincoln and Omaha especially, have done a good job with welcoming refugees and helping them settle. Other than that, I don't have any major agenda in that regard.
All right. There have been, the discussions of vote integrity, voter fraud, and whether we have a flawed election process have been going on for some time now. This is sort of a 3-part question, or maybe it's 2 parts. What would you do if you were pressured to play a role in overturning an election? And then, are more election reforms needed, either on the side to protect voter rights or on the side to enhance voter security?
Well, overturning an election, I think it would just come down to auditing the ballots. Nebraska votes on paper ballots, and if there's a question of whether the machine counted them correctly, I would support doing an audit. But if the audit comes out that the same person wins, that's settled with me. On border integrity, I did have two bills in 2022, one to secure the ballot drop boxes better and to keep private funding out of elections. And so I have been concerned with election integrity, and I'm working with the Secretary of State to make sure that Nebraska's one person, one vote always does count.
All right. Well, I said the questions would be predictable. I didn't always say they'd be easy, but describe your views. The legislature almost certainly will be taking up the issue of abortion in the next session. Describe your views on prohibiting or limiting abortion in Nebraska.
Well, Nebraska's current law is a 20-week ban. I would support a restriction earlier than that. But I also support exceptions for the life of the mother. In vitro fertilization, I think, is fine, and ectopic pregnancies, those are not elective abortions, in my opinion. I'd be acceptable to accepting rape and incest situations. I would like to see a police report, maybe a time limit on that. And I don't want to have a mother have any criminal liability or prosecuting the doctor. So I will vote for something more restrictive if it comes this year. I'm not requiring an absolute ban, though.
All right. Should the legislature scrap nonpartisanship? And if not, what do you think needs to happen to be more nonpartisan?
Well, I think it's a fallacy that we're nonpartisan. Everybody knows what their affiliation is, and I think the voters deserve to know what your party affiliation is on the ballot. So I would support putting our party affiliation on the ballot. You don't have to scrap the constitutional part of it, but I think it would be good for voters to know who I'm affiliated with or what party I belong to. So I guess that pretty much boils it down.
So
I think it is very, we have division, but I've been glad to work with senators with other persuasions on bills where we can agree to get along and solve problems.
would you, if I guess by abandoning nonpartisanship, we're talking also about, you'd have a majority leader and a minority leader, and you'd, I mean, there are a lot of trappings that come along with that. I don't know if you're in support of those or whether you just think, for the sake of honesty, there ought to be a D or an R next to the name on the ballot.
Yeah, I do like Nebraska. Each senator we have our own independence. I like that we can all introduce any bills we like without having it be approved by the speaker or a leader. So I'm, not wanting to go to have one person be able to filter out everything we do. I think it's good that every senator can introduce what bills they want and they all get a public hearing.
Okay. We're way ahead of schedule. I have one last question, but before I ask my question, Kent usually has a short series of questions too. So Kent, it's your time.
Time to throw it off schedule. Most of the time when I ask this question, it's for people who are running for the first time. And it has to do with committees, which is, as you know, where really the work gets done. Is there any sense you might want to change committees, or you feel like you're in the place where you should be with the ones that you're already on?
I'm comfortable with where I am. I'm a numbers guy, they call me, a math major, actuarial science and economics minor. The appropriations committee works on the budget. As a banker, I've worked with cash flows for bank customers on projecting the future numbers with them. And so I will seek to continue to be on appropriations. I am also on the retirement committee. We review the retirement plans for the teachers and the state patrol judges, and projecting future benefits like that is something I've also been comfortable doing. So that will be my plan to stay where I have been.
And now for some of the more issue-oriented things that are sort of in the works almost. First off, the two big water projects, the canal out in southwest Nebraska and the big lake. I'm interested in your position on those, and especially in light of they're not cheap. Let's just put it that way.
Yes, well, I did travel out to Ogallala and then out to Ovid and Julesburg, Colorado, just a few days ago. And the South Platte River is just now starting to get some water in it after Colorado has been using it a lot. And I think it's very important that we get the allocation that we need from Colorado. It restricts our irrigation, even the water supply to the power plants and even the city of Lincoln. So I think we're going to have to fund that, but I believe we can do it over a period of years. They're doing a feasibility study now. We need to make sure it's really cost effective. And if that turns out, I will support funding that, called the Perkins Canal. The proposed lake in eastern Nebraska, whether it's in Sarpy County or somewhere else, I wasn't a big fan of doing that. I've been meeting with some of the landowners that really aren't too excited. It's going to remove their livelihood for the people that farm that ground. And I mainly wanted to make sure that they get treated fairly if their land is taken away that is not by eminent domain. I think they should be paid a fair price, and the people who would end up on the shoreline up a little ways from the lake are going to get big prices from developers. And I think the people who give up their land should be able to receive the price, more of a development price than just farmland price that's in the floodplain. So I won't push hard. I think the state has spent enough money on the lake project, and if private developers want to build it, that'll be private dollars. And I don't really support the state spending much more money or any more really on building a lake for recreation, and especially don't want to see recreation done with eminent domain.
Now for another one that you've dealt with and will be dealing with in the future, unfortunately. What what are your thoughts on the need to build a new prison, or how do you reduce the prison overcrowding? All of those, they're all kind of balled up into one big issue. And once again, a new prison is a whole lot of money.
Well, you may not realize it, but we've already allocated $275 million, and we've set that aside. We've not authorized it to be spent, but I have toured the current Lincoln prisons, and especially the penitentiary is so old, and it's not really feasible, cost effective to rehabilitate it. I think we do need to build a new prison, and that will have more capacity, especially it'll have more places for programming to get treatment for inmates who are going to be released. 95% of them will be, I believe. And so I especially like the fact that we'll be able to get more programming and rehabilitation for inmates. But I'm if you do the crime, you do the time type of person. So not really wanting to get softer on offenders. But we have set out most of the money that's required is already parked, and I will support a new prison facility.
And knowing we could talk about this all day, what do we do about property tax relief, balancing the tax system, however you want to look at it? How do we address that?
Well, I believe we have done a good job starting in 2020, where we now have over $500 million that would, as a credit on your income tax return. And then we have the postcards that went out recently to try to get the taxpayers more involved in looking at what their local entities are spending money on, if they think they really need every dollar of expenses. All the school districts in my county increased by 6% their budget for the next year, and we've kept the state spending to 3%. So I think trying to get them to the local entities to tighten the belt somewhat was a good process. They had like 100 people show up to the county meeting and asking questions. And the state, I think as we have more revenues, if we keep our state spending down and revenues increasing, I'll support directing more of it to this property tax credit relief.
All right, Ken, that was it, right?
That's it. Those are my questions.
So my last question for you, Rob, is what have we not asked you that you wish we would have?
Oh, well, let's see here.
If you want, it can just be a, kind of a closing statement too, whatever you want.
Well, I've been learning a lot at the legislature and getting more comfortable with the process, and would like to continue to serve at the legislature. I do believe, I'm the numbers guy, and I can help with tax issues and government spending. My business experience, I believe, makes me qualified to continue to help guide the state and keep the state's budget balanced and try to provide more tax relief. So I'll continue to support that kind of an agenda. Looking forward to working with a new governor, whoever that might be, And so I'll tend to bring bills that just solve problems. I don't bring a lot of bills because I'm more the numbers guy and not more the verbal person. So I do thank the people for putting me up there, and I'm looking forward to another 4 years.
All right, well, with that, I think we are all wrapped up. Robin, we thank you very much for your time this morning, and we wish you the best through the rest of your campaign.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Ken.
Thanks, Rob.
Bye.